Yes, hello. It's Jason Louv. Welcome back to the Ultraculture podcast, the ever expanding, ever accelerating, ever improving, and ever more awesoming Ultraculture podcast. So, my guests today are the Ghost Maidens. They are Twitch performance artists. I think that's the best way to describe them. They do kind of nonstop, long form, off the wall performances on Twitch. They talk about paranormal investigating. They sing songs that's kind of like a paranormal cyber witch vaudevillian act. They're super cool. I've been on their Twitch channel a couple times if you want to go check that out, talking about the first one was just talking about the John Dee book, and I think the second one was just goofing off. A lot of fun. But you will definitely enjoy this interview. We talk about the shamanic and magical nature of performing on Twitch, which is a completely new art form, which very few people are doing outside of using it as a gaming platform. This conversation went surprisingly deep, and we ended up talking about 60s art collectives and Antonin Artaud and all kinds of great stuff. The theater of cruelty. You're really going to enjoy it. So I will let the Ghost Maidens speak for themselves. Just wanted to thank all the students that came to this weekend's Introduction to Magic course, the Introduction to Magic live event. It was awesome. We redefined magic. We met in VR to do rituals. We had a great time. The event is now closed, sadly, so hopefully you got your ticket and saw us in class. If not, maybe it will come back again in the future. But for now, it is turned off. However, Magic.me is still chock full of awesome courses like the Adept Initiative, where you can learn everything about magic, meditation, and mysticism, boiled down to the bare essentials so that you can empower yourself and blast off into our bizarre yet opportunity-filled 21st century. It's magic.me, magick.me. There's tons there, and there's tons more coming, so there has never been a better time to jump in and join us. All right, I will see you in class, and here's the Ghost Maidens. Hello, Maidens. Thank you for being on the podcast. It is nice to see you again after we have done at least two whole Twitch streams together.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
We have.
So tell us about who you be and what you be doing.
Well, we are the Ghost Maidens, and we for the last 2 years, 2.5 years, we started as paranormal investigators on social media mostly, and ever since we've evolved into being virtual artists who do stand-up comedy and improvisation.
Yeah, but we definitely still include all those elements. It's just we got into the world of streaming and we feel very comfortable there. And we do all sorts of paranormally themed theatrical performances, video games, haunted history art, all sorts
interviews,
of stuff.
Live paranormal investigations,
ghost hunts,
dance, and all with a soft erotic flavor.
It's an amazing stream. I find it extremely entertaining. So it's kind of like a combination of gaming, interviews, and vaudeville musical numbers. It's
exactly.
You have a very unique and amazing aesthetic. I dig it. I've enjoyed being on it.
Thank you.
So
thank you.
It means a lot.
Yes, you're quite welcome. Tell us about the paranormal. Okay, we'll just kick it off like this. What is the craziest? I'm assuming it's the spiders in the attic incident, but what is the craziest paranormal investigation you have been on, and how did that go?
Well, there's a couple of ways to answer that question. I think the craziest paranormal investigation we ever did was also the most boring one, which was in an art gallery here in our hometown, because I don't think it's a place where people would do a paranormal investigation. You would not expect to do one there, but it was also very boring because we were trying to look for meaning, basically, in this empty space where art is curated. We didn't find any. unfortunately, which was also a little bit like it was a joke.
Well, this sounds like basically just going to an art gallery. It's very boring. You're looking for meaning and you don't find any.
That was kind of the meaning behind it, where the only meaning you bring to an art gallery is the one inside of yourself. And that's also our kind of thing with hauntings. If you don't know the history, if you don't know where to place yourself within this thing, then it's not going to be exactly that haunted. But also I will add that it's been lockdown for the last 2 years, so we haven't really gotten to go on that many paranormal investigations. So now that everything is opening back up, we're really gonna go for it now.
We're planning on going to some in the United States.
What's on the menu?
Haunted hotel rooms.
Yeah,
we got a lot of those.
Maybe we can find any near Las Vegas or in Florida.
Yeah, definitely.
So what about other ones? I mean, you must have at some point had some type of paranormal experience on your adventures, or would you say that the real paranormal experience was the friends you made along the way?
Yeah, exactly. I think just deciding to be an artist is the most paranormal thing you can kind of do. These sort of artistic revelations, I would say, are paranormal in nature. Divine intervention, divine frenzy, all of these things are the most paranormal to me. Making connections, intuitions, like that's paranormal for me.
I had my most impressive paranormal moments when I was very deep into a creative process.
How so?
Normally when I'm at the end phase or the end stage of working on a project, when everything seems to connect, that's when the craziest stuff happens. And this is only meaningful for me. Like there's one time, I think I was working on the musical.
Yeah.
And this was also something with spiders. There was like a spider song. I don't really remember what it was exactly. But then I saw like a black piece of tar dripping from my window. I didn't know what it was. And immediately I just felt like there was spider gods watching me and everything seemed to align. And then I called Sybil, please take away the angry eye from my ceiling. And she was, Rose, it's a piece of tar dripping from your window, from your roof.
Or is it?
But it was absolutely paranormal to me.
Well,
meaningless for any other
person. But well, not for me, because we ended up talking about the spider gods a lot, I think. So, well, did this lead into the spider gods in the attic incident?
It was pre-spider god.
This was pre-spider god, but the spider god keeps coming back somehow.
So this was like the spider god was just announcing itself for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah,
or maybe second, or maybe the first time I paid attention.
Maybe the spider god has always been there, and you just never noticed. You just never noticed before.
I definitely have a connection with the spider goddess. Also, my limbs are way too long,
and it's a representation of all the things happening with intuition and your spider senses and being on the internet and everything being connected and the web, and like it's for no reason that all of these things are like verbally and visually kind of used as a metaphor.
But is it a metaphor? Because the spider goddess was confronted in the attic at one point, right?
As a metaphor.
Okay, you're being coy.
Rose takes her metaphors very seriously.
But it's not just a metaphor for me. For me, a metaphor is it's not real, but as relevant as real things.
Which are not very relevant anymore. Unreal things are much more relevant these days, I think.
I think for me sometimes yes. Yeah.
All right. So you're gonna be coy about the spider goddess. Okay. It is real, and you did see it, and it did manifest, and it was in the attic. You can neither confirm nor deny, but
what do you want me to say? Like, there is a spider goddess, like in
yes,
in real
I do
life,
want you to
IRL.
say
All right, there were IRL spider goddesses inside my body,
inside of her body. She was a vessel for the spider energy that came out.
You are the spider goddess.
But I don't think there is a spider goddess. I created a spider goddess, and that's just like an old thought form that is thousands of years old. That's as old as humanity, or as old as people know about spiders or have their shape inside their system.
Like an egregore, like a spider egregore.
Exactly. Well, that's the definition of magic right there. I mean, it's like you make something up. You think you make something up, but then you find out that you've actually tapped into a pre-existing thought form. It's like thousands of years old, and then it gets all too real.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they keep on coming back. These manifestations or these shapes or these egregores.
And then you're a spider goddess overnight.
I will probably, as an old person, I will probably be even more of a spider than I am right now.
It's a process.
I will probably slowly turn into a spider throughout my life.
So we will see. So yeah, but that is really interesting though, because a lot of people that listen to this podcast are artists, and defining in my way of thinking, art and magic are the same thing, and you really
manifesting
absolutely. And in addition to manifesting, when you get into the artistic trance, the flow state of creating, that's when weird stuff can happen, like you're talking about. You have writers talking about the character, they're writing a book, and then first they're writing the character, and then the character is writing itself, or a painting just comes out, or something just happens, and it's like they're not in conscious control of it, they're just channeling it. And I think pretty much all really good art is probably done that way. So I feel that artists, whenever I interact with artists and talk about the stuff, artists immediately understand magic. I don't need to explain it to them. They get it. They don't need to go like Reddit mode, like, well, you don't have any scientific studies to back that up. It's like, no, of course I don't. Well, actually we do now. We've been collating how many pages of scientific studies do we find on meditation? 1,809 studies of meditation on JSTOR. Pages of studies, not studies. That was on JSTOR or PubMed? PubMed, yeah. So I take that back. There is a lot of scientific research on this, but you know how people, they get Reddit-y. They get,
Yeah, we have so many, like, actually in our chat that it's like, that's just how it goes.
Yeah. Talk about being on Twitch, because that must be awesome and awkward and weird at the same time. Maybe, hopefully, mostly awesome. I remember when you first got me on your stream, you explained it to me as it's all about play, and I thought that was like really kind of awesome and heartwarming.
Yeah, it's also, there are consequences for everyone watching you on their computer, and also having all the resources possible at their fingertips, so they can literally prove you wrong at any second, or like actually it's not that, and then we kind of have to take that in stride, or fight them about it, or be like, fight me, like, because there's just hundreds of people chatting at you, and either they're there and they understand and they're willing to play, or they're willing to cause chaos. So
what is causing chaos look like?
Sometimes I feel like a teacher in front of a group of teenagers.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I'm a priest preaching to the parish. Sometimes I feel like a mom who is just getting dinner for her children, and it's funny to have all these roles. And that's one thing I really enjoy about Twitch, is that you get to just explore all these roles some only for one stream, some come back. Like, also we've been dominatrixes sometimes, and this is something that comes from us, but it also comes from the audience. And there's just this feels magical, like the thing that meets in the middle, like something we throw at them and they give back at us. And I think the result of this art piece, so to speak, that's how I see it. I think that's the middle, the communication, the interaction between us.
Yeah, we had no idea what was going to happen when we showed up as grandmas, and I couldn't believe the feedback we got from showing up as old ass grandmothers. And we just put chat in a position to be like, you're visiting your grandmother, what do you have to say?
What was the response to that?
Well, at a certain point, Sybil was eating a biscuit, and then I don't know, like, she tapped into a grandmother.
I tapped into my grandmother, and all the grandmothers in the world.
And they lick their biscuits. They have a weird tongue. Grandmothers always have like a weird tongue.
They make their biscuits soggy before they eat them.
So eventually it was just a stream of us licking biscuits for 2 hours. and then that was the content. But now, like, this biscuit thing became its own egregore.
Yeah.
And now these grandmothers are almost people that other people from all over the world know about and can interact with. And there are some of these characters that keep on coming back in our streams.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like persons in a way.
Yeah.
Like people.
Wow. So
sides of
so
us.
but what was what, you know, like when you were doing, that's amazing. When you were, I was just trying not to completely disrupt the podcast by laughing really hard about the biscuits. It's amazing.
Laughing is allowed.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you. Well, but what in the? I mean, do you feel like you tapped into some primal need there of people for the grandmother figure, or like how are people responding?
Yeah. I think like it's unlike other performance where the whole time we can see ourselves, on the screen in front of us. So it actually helps me disassociate with myself. If I don't recognize the thing I'm seeing and in the reflection, I can go even harder in a character. I can totally lose myself because I also know what they see. And then in that case, then I'm like, oh, how would a grandmother walk? And I can kind of test it out as I'm doing this improv on stream. And it's a completely different way of like doing stuff because I am aware of what people are seeing.
Do you feel like there's something about live performance that, and I guess just not just live performance, but live performance on the internet in real time with broadband video, which has never been really possible till recently, that allows that feedback loop to happen and allows the magic and the manifestation to happen, basically?
Well, I think the fact that you're not in the same room together, which is the definition of theater. Like if you go to Aristotle all the way back, it's like sharing time, sharing space, and sharing like an activity together. Like I don't know how to say it in English perfectly, but this is the old way of doing theater. And now with the internet, we don't share a space anymore. But I think that makes the time that you're sharing even more important.
Yeah.
So I think the idea of being able to influence someone who is not sharing a space with you, but is sharing time with you, becomes even more magical. And I think therefore the performance itself becomes about the wonder of being able to still communicate with each other, still influence each other in this way. So I think that as an art form, this medium just offers the completely new spectrum of what is possible in performance, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's more about communication that any other theater form has been so far, I think.
Yeah, and the people that are on Twitch also are very willing to play with us and play along and you know, get sucked into the narrative or whatever, or make jokes. It can be very playful.
So you cannot really plan it also. Not completely.
That's so interesting. So yeah.
It's like curated reality.
As you're explaining that, it's making a lot of sense. I had never thought of Twitch as, you know, an art form until basically I met both of you, and as you're explaining it now, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm wondering, it makes me think, you know, especially in theater, there's definitely an approach or a benefit to wearing masks, where when you wear a mask, you feel free to be yourself. And I'm wondering if maybe the internet forms a somewhat analogous function in the sense that you may not be wearing a mask unless, you know, you're playing a role and you are wearing a mask, but you are essentially masked from the audience because you can't really see them, and you're able to perform in your own comfort zone, your own house or whatever. And you are having a feedback loop between you and the audience, but there's basically a safe barrier of protection between you where you're separated by the internet. And I found it I don't do Twitch, but when I teach live courses on magic.me, there's definitely something that happens where I feel totally free to essentially manifest what I want to manifest, and that, you know, I can teach and something comes through me that doesn't come through when I'm just like recording something rather than doing it live.
Yeah. And I'd say that it's even more than just an actor or whatever performing in front of an audience, because everyone has a voice on Twitch, for example.
Yeah.
You can read everyone's thoughts. Everyone can participate from their own home, and they can throw some things at you that you wouldn't expect, where normally an audience has to be mostly well behaved. And we allow them, we grant them the power to boo us, to applause, to make all these sound effects in our stream as well, to kind of play with that. So they can boo us.
Why did you make that
500
for $500?
They can pay to make us feel bad.
Yeah, they can pay to make us feel bad or better, whatever they want.
Why did you decide to do it that way? Was that from did that just evolve out of the process of doing it, or how did you end up choosing to do it that way?
The more interaction, the better.
It's just also the same rules still apply as from traditional theater. Like you can still create dramatic situation.
Yeah.
And it is an extremely dramatic situation when we are saying one thing and our audience is like against us. So we have to constantly play with, like, now we are a pact, or we're a pact with the audience, or sometimes it's audience against us. And if you give them the power to also revolt against you, then that can create really, really interesting dramatic situations.
Yeah.
Wow. So would you say there's an aspect to it where you're kind of channeling the audience, and whatever your characters you're manifesting or situations is kind of coming from them in a way?
Definitely.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like it's completely them, and we're just vessels, or we're just there for them to throw stuff at. Those are not necessarily always my favorite streams, but they definitely get interesting when they take over, and you can immediately tell when we are losing control over the conversation, or when chaos in their comments starts to rise, or when it becomes too negative and then we're out of control. And these are always the most interesting moments also, because then real life and real human interaction shows itself.
Yeah, we also have trolls,
and then we can no longer wear a mask.
Yeah.
So does that mean you just have to shut it? You just have to shut it down at that point, or what happens when it gets to that danger zone?
This is where like the rules, the morality, the ethics of Twitch comes in. That's really hard.
And this is why they create mods, and we designate certain people to be able to have power in the channel to do all sorts of things. For example, kick people out of the chat room, or
politics. What kind of society do we want to be?
Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of society do we want to be? This just keeps getting more. This is really fascinating.
Basically, all of our mods have been created because they are the funniest.
Okay.
So
we reward
comedy. Yeah, we reward comedy with power.
just like we do this in America. You know, the comedians have the most media power. Or look at Ukraine. That is really interesting.
Yeah.
So it's funny how that works.
Because they also, it's in order to be funny or to see nuance, like that's what comedy is. There's a lot of truth involved in comedy. So the funnier the people are, the more ability they have to see in between the nuance or what people say in chat.
Context.
Yeah, and context is very important. So we've made all the funniest people we've met along the way. We've kept them as our mods, and we have a special mod room in the Discord where they're like the elite of our channel, and
we call them our nocturnal nights.
Yeah,
they must love that.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So it's interesting you were talking about the ethics of Twitch and what kind of society do we want to be? And I immediately started thinking, in the last 2 years, I think that one of the biggest effects of COVID is that, quite a bit of the world has simply transitioned to living online, and not just living online, but now the online world is the real world and the public commons, and the offline world is the world that doesn't matter as much because the whole world doesn't see it. The real world feels unreal.
disconnected.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a much better word. Yeah, absolutely. So when you were saying what kind of, you're working out ethics and morals and civic structures in Twitch comments, that's probably pretty real going forward, which was immediately what I was thinking. It's like, that's not just the
laws of a community,
like in a real social structure way, not in just necessarily because immediately I laughed, but then I was like, no, that's actually probably 100% true for the whole society going forward, not necessarily in Twitch comments, but just how do we be a society that is completely lived online?
We become a society online, I think.
So what,
like that, it's just a place with its own rules and with its own ethics and its own system of punishment, of reward. And I think it's very important to think about these things.
Rose loves rules, so
I hate rules, but I love thinking about rules.
She loves to of course, what kind of community do we want to be? Do we want to have to ban people?
I don't want to ban people.
But at the beginning we didn't want to ban people, but then we've realized that actually it's a necessity in order to keep other people having a good time. And no one wants, it's the same rules that apply in a theater. If you walk into a theater and start shouting crazy things, everyone else is going to have a bad time. So for the sake of maintaining the atmosphere, you have to get rid of these people.
Yeah, that's definitely...
That's sad.
It's sad. It's also kind of what the whole world has been struggling with over the last 10 years with social media and banning and things like this. And I guess the day we're recording this, Elon Musk is initiating a hostile takeover of Twitter to try and control the entire company.
Oh,
right.
Really?
I mean, first he bought a bunch of shares in it, and then he decided to step away from the board, and now he's decided he just wants to hostilely take over the entire company because...
A coup.
What's that?
A coup,
and a coup, and
I don't know.
And
I'm a Dutch
it's
person.
It's funnier the way you say it, and he's saying he's doing this because it's necessary to protect free speech. Although you could certainly also make the alternate argument that oligarchs controlling the means of expression is basically what killed the newspaper business and is very bad for free speech. So, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. But yeah, just kind of free associating. And so, but
free speech, that's I think that's another thing that we have to think about a lot, and something that is kind of scary of having your livelihood online
and being an artist
Like, we have to be really careful with what we say.
How so?
Because these algorithms, they just take out certain words. Like if you say a bad word, like someone can report you, or like there's even algorithms who can hear you say some words and they don't have context, so everything you say can be pulled out of context and you can get reported for that.
We have to be very careful of the terms of service on Twitch, where it's like everything is TOS. You can't talk about this, you can't talk about this. There's
you cannot show your feet.
You can't show your feet. If you show your ass and you're in a swimsuit, you have to be next to some sort of water. Like it's
like you're if you want to show your feet, you need to also show enough water to hold your feet.
This is like real.
This is sort of weird.
Can you show ankle?
And it's also it's fun to play with that. Also, it's also fun to play.
with to boil down the bureaucracy of rules. It's also. You make new art with doing just that.
So you feel like some artistic tension comes out of that, where you push back against that.
Okay. As much as we can,
but we definitely have to be careful.
This is like Victorian England rules or something. You can't show feet. Hopefully you can show ankle, but maybe not even that. I don't know.
Pushing it.
It makes us question all the time of like, well, we're allowed to do all these things on the internet, but there's some things that we don't like about it. It's like Instagram or whatever. It's just like nothing is ever 100% great anymore. It's just kind of, what are you willing to sacrifice to be an internet person,
So are you on balance happy with how that's been working out?
For the most part on Twitch, yeah. And it's just, they let us cuss and that's great. And we have to like make sure that if we're wearing something crazy, we have to have some nipple coverage, because if a nip were to slip out, that would be the end of our Twitch career pretty much.
It happened.
Yeah.
Does the algorithms immediately spot that, or do people report it?
No, people
this
clip
is people's job.
People clip it, record it immediately, send it to Twitch.
What?
They'll do whatever they can to immediately. Like if it's just up to the algorithm always identifies like copywritten songs in our VODs, which is not really Twitch's fault. Twitch is trying to protect us from DMCA takedowns. So it's basically like telling us in your VOD, oh, there's copyright music. If you leave it up, there's a risk that you might get a DMCA copyright takedown. So that's algorithm. But for the most part, we have to worry the most about disgruntled trolls or people clipping
Twitch
something.
Staff, like people
Twitch
from
staff.
Twitch, they investigate people.
They can hang out in our chat sometimes. You're
like
not allowed.
Like dark figures who like hang out in your chat and they don't say anything even when you call them. Like,
yeah, they don't say anything.
You can see that it's
like
Twitch
the Twitch
staff,
secret
they
police.
don't communicate with you.
We can't have any links to OnlyFans. We're not even supposed to mention it. We can't we can't really sell things on Twitch. So at the moment we have like, you can buy a song from us, which technically is buying an object, which is not really allowed, but you could argue about that. And so there's a lot of things, but mostly we just have to worry about people reporting us for something they take out of context of what we've said.
Does that result in a lot of background anxiety?
Not yet.
No.
But we're also not big streamers.
Yeah, we're not huge. So I'm sure it will get worse. But also that's the reason why people come to our channel, is because we're a little bit unhinged.
Amazingly, yes.
Yeah.
I really love your stream. So, or your, what do you call it? Your Twitch channel?
Stream,
Twitch
yeah.
Stream,
Yeah, your channel.
Yeah, our content.
Great
content
content.
makers.
Yeah, content anchors. Is that what you said?
Content makers.
I thought you said content anchors. That sounded like some kind of
all artists
corporate
hate
thing.
being referred to as content makers.
Yes, agreed.
Paranormal influencers, content creators.
Yeah, there we go.
What would you say the average age is on Twitch, at least on your stream? Is it actually like all 13-year-old Minecraft players, or is it different?
No, you can't actually say if you're underage, because we've marked our channel 18 plus. So if you come in our chat and say that you're under 18, we can get in trouble. So we don't know how old people are.
Most are our age. I think most people are in their 30s.
Oh.
Maybe that just means that they like our sense of humor, so that appeals to them. But I think it's quite young. There's a lot of gamers. There's a lot of like edgelords out there. So I think it's probably from 14 to, we have 60-year-olds in our chat.
Wow.
So anywhere in that, it's definitely 90% male.
We have 70-year-olds in our chat.
Yeah.
Like there's some boomers even.
And your dad?
We don't know how they got there, but there's boomers there.
They didn't explain themselves.
They managed.
Yeah.
I don't know how they got there, but they managed.
I feel like too much of a boomer to understand Twitch, and I'm not a boomer, so.
Well, I have to say I'm also writing some sort of a thesis about this theater form, basically, and the way that I'm writing it is also in like an anthropologist who encounters a new culture somewhere, new for the anthropologist, obviously, and at first for me it felt like a strange encounter with a people that I didn't know anything about. I didn't know how to say hello. I didn't know what information to pay attention to, what was the window of possibilities of communicating with them, and it's just like a new language that you have to learn somehow. And then because the language we speak with each other on Twitch is also it's also more visual, because there's a lot of emotes, like emojis.
Yeah, and you can't write long paragraphs. That's kind of taboo. Like, don't write long paragraphs, because in order to have this interaction, it has to be kind of quick back and forth. And anytime we read mostly a lot of our comments out loud so that people can follow what we're saying and thinking. And if you write a paragraph and you make me read it out loud, you're taking time away from other people. So there's these kind of like unspoken rules also. about it.
Yeah. So, but like to at first, it's so fucking overwhelming. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
The podcasts don't have algorithms. They are the one last place on the internet you can do whatever you want.
The last bastion of American freedom.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's so overwhelming because you just don't know where to look.
Yeah.
You don't know what is the important information that you need in order to interact, but eventually you do, and then it's so much fun.
Yeah,
it's so much fun. I love being on Twitch. It's a crazy little kingdom with weird things happening all the time.
And I have to say that for the most part, we are unusual on Twitch. And mostly it's like gaming and all
most
sorts
content
of other
sucks.
things. Yeah, most content's very boring, or just
terrible.
If you want to watch games, that's what you go there for. But there are a lot of, or several artists and musicians moving into Twitch. So I have to say we are on that frontier creatively before a lot of other people are.
I haven't seen many rituals and magic done on Twitch though.
Yeah.
I think you were trying to get me.
Stuff.
Were you trying to get me to do that at one point, or I think somebody else was? And I
probably us.
I think I refused, but.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Or maybe. It was in an art gallery. I can't remember.
Yeah.
What was the request?
I can't remember now.
On the way.
It was some exorcism for
somebody.
The
exorcism.
Yeah.
You were afraid.
I'm also just shy, so But
you shy? Come on.
Waving wands in public? Yes, that's only behind closed doors. So So you said you're working on so if you were to succinctly explain what your thesis coming out of this is, like from an anthropological standpoint, like do you have that clarified?
Well we did basically a 32-hour live stream, and that was just a wealth of things we learned, and Rose just picked that one to kind of focus on for like, what the hell is performance anymore?
What did you conclude?
So many things. It's still in process. I haven't finished this thesis yet. I'm still writing it, but it's basically I think it's the performance of the future in the form of a dialogue. I think it's curated reality. It's we don't want things to be scripted anymore, and if it's scripted, we want it to be, I don't know, still wild and hidden or something, or maybe amoral. I don't know. It's I don't have a final conclusion yet.
Have you read Antonin Artaud ever? The Theater of Cruelty?
Oh yeah. The Theater of the Cruelty.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you thought about any of that or other like classic theater theories in relation to Twitch?
Well, I think this 31-hour stream that we did was definitely inspired by Artaud.
Okay.
Like what I really like about Artaud is that he's this theater. I think I told you about him.
Yeah.
That if you set really strict rules for yourself, then you can look for the extremity within these rules. Mm-hmm. And then like this 31-hour stream we did, we were not allowed to leave the stream for the amount of time that our audience wanted us there.
Yeah, there's the concept is just really basically a subathon is something where there's a timer always running at the top, and whatever they donate in the various forms of Twitch currency adds time onto the clock. So basically, in theory, you go as long as your audience is willing to torture you or whatever to put you through.
So basically, we put ourselves in a prison. Yeah. Like, in the prison is this frame that you see us in.
Yeah.
And this became kind of they could torture us, and they actually also did, because we were really tired, we were really overstimulated at a certain point.
Yeah, they can play songs to keep us awake.
We didn't want to be there anymore, and then it became this battle between them also to like rescue us or damage us even more. And I think this cruelty also comes in here, that it's interesting to notice that you also kind of want to torture your performer, because this is the ultimate power.
Yeah. to influence.
If you are able to hurt us.
So what?
Then yeah.
So what were your takeaways from? That's such an intense experience. I mean, well, first of all, what did you feel like after 32 hours? It must have been.
Well, the end was really funny, actually, and pretty apt for what our concept is. At the end, they could tell because they're giving us basically money to support us. But by giving us money to support us, they're also putting more time on the clock. So by doing that, it's actually like paradoxical where they want to help us out and give us money, but they actually can clearly see, because we didn't hide it, that we didn't want to be there anymore. Yeah. And so at the end, we kind of went through this thing of like Rose did like a guided meditation almost to our death.
It became euthanasia.
Yeah, it became euthanasia where we just wanted to we wanted them to let us pass away.
Let us go.
Let us go.
This sounds like amazing theater.
And they wanted to show their appreciation by donating. But by donating, they were hurting us while we were also grateful. Yeah. So we got ourselves in like a emotional cluster of contradictions. And this, for me, is the best theater that I've ever done.
Yeah. That's perfect.
But for me, as a performer, I think noticing or having the experience of really not liking what you're doing when it's painful, when you're uncomfortable, when you think that your content is really bad because you're grumpy and you're kind of cussing at the people in your audience. It gave me kind of a mind opener, eye opener, that you don't necessarily have to be positive, likable, or nice.
Yeah.
The relationship you have with your audience is not one that you have with your friends or with people on the street. I think it feels a little bit like you are there as a performer to evoke emotions with and not necessarily the good ones
all the time. Yeah, it was real. It was about as real as it could get because, we woke up in the morning, we didn't have makeup on, we were in our bathrobes. We just woke up after 5 hours of shitty sleep because all the lights were on so they could see us. They could torture us with sounds while we were sleeping. They were just putting paragraphs of like weird porno in the chat so that it would read out loud because we have TTS, we have text to speech. And we showered on stream, of course, with bathing suits on because you cannot.
Unfortunately, I would have. Yeah, not allowed.
And so we are basically just doing this for 32 hours, basically. And at the end, actually, it got funnier because we were a little bit angry and grumpy and very salty. And actually, it also reassured us that we can completely be ourselves on stream, and that's also fine.
So it was,
we lost the mask basically because of this experience.
And it sounds like you kind of like drew some personal strength from that at the end.
Yeah, and it made it more personal also.
So what do you feel like after kind of absorbing this experience, which sounds so intense on so many different levels and so many intense dynamics? What do you feel your takeaways were from that? What did you learn about your audience or yourself?
The strongest thing that I think we have in this artistic partnership is our relation to each other. That's really where the magic is between the two of us. And that's what everyone is there for. They throw stuff at us to see what happens between the both of us, our relation to each other. There's the special magic is between Rose and I. That's I think the thing that can't be found anywhere else, because sometimes we do solo streams and it's fun and it's a way to maintain the community, but everyone shows up for the both of us. It's just a dynamic. I think that's the best part about what we have going here is the dynamic.
So within this experience, you felt like you explored that more or something?
That I could see that's really the thing. Like no matter what's going on, even though we're grumpy or walking around The Hague with our audience, it's just that I can see why they're there. And it's whatever's between the two of us.
Yeah. I think for me, it's that the improvisation can just derail or something, like that the things you don't plan, if you just have an open tentacle for finding the improv gems or something, like the little niches or creases you can dive into, is like in this form of theater, the interactive improvisation, that's where the magic is, I think.
Interesting.
And then I think I learned to be more radical in that, or more extreme.
How so?
Because you get a little crazy after a couple of hours, and you kind of forget that you're performing sometimes. So maybe a performance only gets good for us after 5 hours.
Yeah.
But we never really crossed that boundary. So we're always in the safe space, or in the safe, like, no, I'm getting tired, so I stop.
Or you do yoga in front of the moon to a Blue Velvet tune in a leather catsuit, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you gotta wait 25 hours for that to happen.
Which got DMCA'd, which I'm very sad about, because it was the entire soundtrack to Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
But
yeah. Do you know the concept of the third mind?
No.
So this was something that William S. Burroughs and Brian Geisen wrote about a lot in the 60s and 70s, and it's basically exactly what you're saying. It was the idea that when you have two artistic collaborators together, then a third mind arises that is kind of like an egregore, or it's something more than the sum of its parts, that is only created as kind of this autonomous intelligence that is separate from the individual people collaborating. And that's what I was thinking of as you were talking about. And also when you're talking about kind of that forming between you and your audience, it sounds like, as the third collaborator.
Yeah. It really feels like the creation is between us, like in the space between, there's Sybil, there's me, there's the audience, and then there's somewhere in between, that's where the creation is.
Yeah, and also when we come up with something together and then we try it out, it ends up being kind of epic sometimes. Like there's this one character who, for a while we had always kind of thrown this name around, like Uncle Duncan and the art band or whatever. So just Uncle Duncan, I don't know, whatever. We thought it sounded funny phonetically. And
Uncle Duncan. Yeah, I think I'd started because I typed in Uncle Duncan in Google Translate, and then I read it out loud. And then the lady pronouncing it was kind of like a rhythm that was funny, like Uncle Duncan, and then it became a person's name. I don't know.
And then we just came up with this. I don't even know. It was like a goal. We always have goals for new costumes, new things. And then somehow this character got invented called Uncle Duncan, and it's basically. It's Rose.
It's me
dressed up as some sort of a very pervy monk that comes and visits his niece, me, at certain times of the year. And once that this Uncle Duncan appeared on stream, like it no one has forgotten about it, and it's just become this real person that Rose is disassociating with. She's like, I don't know where Uncle Duncan is. It's not me, because it's not Rose when she's there, you know. And it was just created between all of this, just pulling ideas down from separate things, and it just becomes like this epic thing that happens.
And now every time they also ask, like, how is Uncle Duncan?
What's
and then we come up with some sort of a backstory. So now we this Uncle Duncan is a person who has history.
Deep lore.
So who is Uncle Duncan, and what is it? See, now I'm interested too. Like, what's the lore of Uncle Duncan? He's gonna escape into this podcast.
Monk. Uncle Duncan is a monk. He lives in monasteries.
Yeah, he lives in a monastery. In the Alps.
And he is Sybil's uncle.
Yeah.
But her entire family doesn't really talk to Uncle Duncan anymore. And then he just was in this monastery. But then Corona hit.
Yeah.
And everyone died. in the monastery
Yeah.
because they weren't vaccinated.
Yeah.
So there was no money anymore. So he had to go away. And then he knocked on Sybil's door because she's his only relative who will still talk to him sometimes to stay over at her place for a while.
Yeah.
And then he brings a lot of presents. And then every time she has to unwrap a present, she has to sit on his lap.
Yeah.
Just...
Yeah, it's very inappropriate.
And sometimes he plays a flute solo for her.
Right. Yeah.
And then he borrows her toothbrush.
Yeah.
And he sleeps on the couch, but then he crawls into her bed at night.
Oh my
it's
God.
very inappropriate.
This is extremely...
And then he leaves again, but you never really know when he's going to come back.
No. And so we also like to kind of set up scenarios where when they least expect it, there he is. And then they're like, oh my God, he's back. It's just a lot of fun that you can just kind of create these crazy performances within an online community.
I'm afraid of Uncle Duncan now.
Everyone is afraid of Uncle Duncan.
And I'm kind of worried he's going to show up.
We don't know, but if he does, like some people even say that he even though he needs to be celibate, some people say that there's a little uncle, what was his name? Lil Duncan.
Lil Duncan.
Lil Duncan, and he might show
world.
up one day also. We don't know.
I'm scared. Well, as you're talking about this and you're explaining this, it's like I feel like I have a completely new understanding of what you're doing, and it is freaking epic. And I think that it's not only 1,000% magic, like 1,000%. I mean, it's like the best type of real time, and the fact that it's in real time on the internet is completely new. And
it's very new.
I'm my major obsession in life is combining the tried and tested ancient magic with cutting edge technology, which you're definitely doing. And the other thing that is really interesting about it is it reminds me of all the most interesting experimental theater, like the bits of theater that kind of like have the potential of like crossing from being theater into something much more shamanic, for lack of a better word, and something that maybe even gets possibly out of control of the people that created it. And the thing that I'm thinking of is Genesis Peerage always used to tell me about in the 60s, she lived in a commune called the Exploding Galaxy, which was basically a theater. From what I understand, it was a theater collective that all lived together in one house as a commune. And the house was full of, they just had tons and tons and tons of clothes and different costumes that they had assembled. And the rule in the commune is you could live there, but you were not allowed to be the same person more than one day. Every day you would have to create a new character from their wardrobe.
Oh, I love that.
And be that character, but everyone was doing this. So it was never the same people the same day.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, but that's also what we want to do basically, but in less elegant terms, it's called a hype house.
A hype house
these days, where a lot of streamers live together, and of course they're making content or whatever. But like this concept anyway, we love the idea of living with other streamers in order to kind of make these sorts of things happen. And I love the idea of having a lot of just clothes and costumes laying around, because really you never know what happens. And even when we go on just like casual vacations, we end up with characters. Like, for example, Rose has a character called Courtney in America. Like, we were doing this even before we were on Twitch, so this seems very natural for us.
She is engaged.
But who is Courtney? And who is she engaged to?
She's engaged to a Marine.
Okay.
And she's very conservative.
And she loves the Cracker Barrel.
She loves Cracker Barrel. She has a big ass engagement ring. She shows it to everyone. She takes pride in having shot some alligators.
Is this how everyone in Europe sees America?
Maybe it's Rose's interpretation.
There's truth to it.
Yeah, and she has like a pro gun hat that she bought at Walmart.
And she will definitely she signed up for Naked and Afraid also with her fiance.
Is that a reality show?
Your fiance.
Yeah, the TV show. Yeah,
it's one of her favorite shows.
What is that show? I'm woefully.
You take
behind.
off your clothes and you go to the swamps
and survive for 23 days.
It's terrible.
So who is her husband? Is he a gator?
Brandon.
Brandon. That was his name. Yeah.
Okay.
Brandon. Yeah.
And he's in the military.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they never see each other.
Never.
So.
That also sounds like a lot of military couples.
That's the success of their relationship. Yeah. Also, she gets to brag about him and not deal with his bullshit.
He's gone.
That sounds perfect. Yeah. Amazing. So, yeah, the idea of everyone, like, I haven't heard the phrase hype house, but I have heard of influencer houses, and which is bizarre. But like, now that you're talking about it, there could be like a lot of really exciting art coming out of something like that. I know when I was I was at one point looking for an apartment in the Valley in Los Angeles, and I ended up going to an apartment that was currently owned by an influencer who I don't know who she was, but she had like something like 60 million followers on Instagram. I was just that's not my world. But it was amazing because she had more clothes than I've ever seen. And there was just a whole room that had probably 800 bits of clothing and just like probably 100 different shoes and things like this. And the whole room, the entire house or apartment rather, was filled with quote unquote product. It was like all this stuff that people were sending her. And so there was just all these unopened boxes, and it was the most artificial house I'd ever seen. She had photos up with like photo frames, like literally with the picture in it that it came with. And it just seemed like, and the most depressing part was that she had a kid who was literally sleeping on the floor in a nest of product. Like, just
that's so poetic.
Yeah.
In a way.
Man.
It was super disturbing, but it was just like,
It's a poem. It's a capitalist poem.
Yeah. It's just like a nest had been built from these kind of like unopened like perfume bottles and things like boxes and things like that. It was really bizarre. And I literally don't remember who she was, so I'm not libeling anyone. But well, it's not libel because it was actually true. It was just kind of, somebody who's famous for being famous on Instagram. But but I think approaching that type of experience you're already doing it, approaching that type of experience from a magical or experimental theater perspective is super interesting.
Yeah, it's the best part about having this sort of hype house is that, of course, you rely a lot on technology now. So it's better if you have all these things in place, all of these technology and the internet and all lights and a stream deck and all these things already set in place. Yeah. So that all you have to do is just turn it on, and then just start the whole thing. So it takes a lot of money also to build these things and build these studios, because it's basically running a TV studio from your house. So it just makes more sense that if you just have one thing that's in place, and then you can invite whoever to come through and just kind of perform.
Yeah, like a commune. I think we are actually starting a commune.
Yeah,
a little bit, right?
Yeah,
we're becoming that's
the dream. Yeah.
Virtual theater comedy a little bit, and then we do play different characters every day, but we don't necessarily create them ourselves. We create them together with the audience, I think. Yeah.
So is the plan to kind of live in or build one of these hype houses? And by the way, I know how expensive and difficult this is. We're building a whole studio here just to do courses and stream live courses, and it is ridiculously hard and expensive. So yeah.
A little bit has to go a long way in the beginning.
But it's definitely the dream to start an internet commune in the middle of the forest.
Green screen illusion castle.
With a big ass internet pole in our garden and just stream.
Would it be possible to do a virtual commune where the cameras are on all the time, but everyone's living together in virtual space?
Well, actually what we're trying to do, what we've started a little bit, but we're not there yet to completely execute the idea. But we want to found a church.
Yeah.
And we want to make the place of visitation. We want to make that the URL. Like, we want to make that a website. But we have to figure out if it's possible because of the legislation. I don't know if you can actually found a church yet that only exists virtually, but we are in this process, the Church of Satin.
The Church of Satin.
Yeah.
I'm sure you
our luxurious lord.
Our luxurious lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a church that worships humor, comedy, irony. Yeah.
Sounds good to
and
me.
The flesh.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can definitely do it in the US, and you can get tax exemption if you do it.
I mean, might as well.
Yeah, that's what Scientology did. You literally don't. That's why all these people are so rich in the US, like Joel Osteen and people like that. It's ridiculous. They're like flying on gold airplanes and things like that just because they don't pay taxes.
That's how we're gonna get Rose admitted into the country. She's gonna be you have to give a visa to your lead church figure.
Oh, yeah? Absolutely. Yeah. That's how Osho.
Am I gonna get into as some sort of a priestess?
Yeah, definitely.
That's amazing.
You're the only one that can fill that position, so
nice.
Very special.
I can be like the comedy priestess.
Yeah.
Well, we already have members, but we haven't really figured out the entire concept yet. But a church is coming.
Interesting. Well, I will be your parishioner, and in the U.S. There's I of course have never looked into this, certainly, but in the United States you can legally become a religion if you have a board of 25 members and you have a holy text. You legally have to have a holy scripture.
I have already all of that.
What is the holy text of the Church of Satin?
All hail our luxurious Lord. What was it?
Like a Bible, like a text, like a Bible.
Oh, I'm gonna write that.
Yeah.
No problem.
Maybe it could just be like a collection of memes printed out.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
We have a Discord. Just print that out. There it is.
Yeah, and like the relics. Yeah.
I will.
Yeah. Very busy Discord.
I will definitely join, even if you just do it online. Sounds fun.
We already have people joining. They can pick the role they want themselves.
Yeah. We tried to get you to be an exorcist, but you were shy.
Well,
you can fulfill another role in our church.
Yeah, we'll have to find something.
You can choose whatever you want.
Well, we have I keep meaning to be on your. You've invited me many times to play Dead by Daylight with you on your stream, but I have been on a quest for a dongle that I have not yet.
Yeah, for a long time.
I'm trying to get my dongle for connecting a PS4.
They're everywhere, those dongles. You just point and click on Amazon and your dongle will arrive before you even know it.
Yeah.
So I'm just one dongle away from at least being streaming games with you, which sounds really fun. And
one dongle
away. And when you explained that also, it was super interesting, and I'd never thought about it before, the like playing games with people, where you I think said to me at one point that Twitch is really interesting and positive overall because people are just there to play games and kind of share the play experience. And that was super interesting to me because I definitely, in my way of thinking, I think people are basically at their best when they're playing, and also when it's funny, when they're humorous, but when they are removed from the kind of stress of having to normally socialize, and they can just be other characters and play like we do when we're kids. And do you know Hideo Kojima?
Sounds familiar.
He is like a super famous game designer that did Metal Gear Solid and Death Stranding, which is, I recommend to everyone. It's like one of the most profound. It's just a very profound piece of art, Death Stranding.
You drew him Solid Snark or
Solid
whatever.
Snark.
that was one of his characters.
Oh,
Solid
really?
Snake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very popular.
He is super interesting to me because he also just recently tweeted the Book of the Law in Japanese, which was very confusing. And people were like, no, that's black magic. You'll go down the dark path. It's pretty funny.
Oh.
But he also just won the highest cultural award in Japan for artistic achievement, basically. But he has this really interesting concept, or it's not necessarily his concept, but he leans on it a lot, called Homo Ludens, which forms, this?
What's that?
The playing the human as a playing entity. This is what we are as a species. I don't remember who came up with this term.
Apparently it was a book.
Sheila?
I don't know, but there was a book in the early part of the 20th century. It's in my Amazon basket. I keep meaning to buy it. but I think the idea was kind of like that people dismiss play as frivolous and a waste of time because it's non-productive.
Because it's meaningless.
Right.
It doesn't serve a purpose.
And I think this author said, like, actually, no, like, Homo ludens is, man who plays is a much, happier and kind of more advanced evolutionary state than.
Yeah, we're not beasts anymore if we're playing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
It's liberating. You don't have to obey the rules that you have set for yourself, or that society have set for yourself for us. I think it's a wild card. It's an exit of obedience, something like that.
I love that.
At least that's what it feels like for me.
So it's like a way to escape, at least you can escape control for at least for a brief period of time.
Or find the boundaries of it. Yeah, because also when two dogs are playing together, they're trying to find each other's boundaries of when the playing goes too far. And then they have the signifying of when that happens. And that's also fun, when we're on Twitch, when it goes too far, or like trying to find those boundaries of playing or something like that. Because one time we had this we had this person in chat who was talking to us, and we thought he was joking. We thought he was doing a bit with us, and then it turned out that actually he was like super offended, and it turned really sour really fast for all of us. And also this other time we were doing this live stream with someone, and they had said, okay, I want to set these rules where you are basically punishing me on my birthday. I want you to be the dommy mommies for me on my birthday. And we're like, all right. And we were doing the game, and all of a sudden when consent is no longer a thing, but you don't really say that we didn't have consent anymore, we
felt like he didn't want to be dominated.
Yeah,
even though he said I know. Yeah.
So the rules of playing only work when the two parties agree upon it also. And that's very interesting to figure it out when it goes wrong.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, that sounds stressful.
It was terrible.
It was live. It's in front of other people, so everyone's watching the cringe just happen before their eyes, and
major cringe fest.
It's like up to us to be like, do we like reality check this, or do we try to play it off? So it's very interesting.
Was there a safe word?
No, which we learned from.
We learned there needed to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. So he just got his buttons. He just got pushed further than he thought he was ready for.
No, he just didn't want to play.
Oh, okay.
He just didn't want to play, and even though he came up with this arena, this scenario, he wasn't playing back anymore. So it just looked basically like we were bullying the shit out of him live on stream.
We looked so mean.
Yeah.
Oh my god, terrible.
It wasn't cool.
Like his entire community hated us afterwards.
Yeah. Wow. Do you feel though that like when, like I hadn't thought about that either when you brought up the point of play as a way of people finding each other's boundaries, and maybe even if it's awkward, it's still within a safer context than if it was in, for instance, the work environment or the real world.
Yeah.
People get to discover themselves in that way, and even that experience is probably very, profoundly educational. And it's interesting that you bring up the thing about dogs doing this. It's like, because I've been taking my dog to the dog park for the first time. He's growing up so fast.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm just like sitting there watching this. Last night I was just like sitting there watching in real time this dog that's pretty much just been sheltered by me run around with like 12 other dogs, all of which are 3 times his size. And, they rough him up a lot, but he loves it because he kind of figures out where he stands in the world. And they do this thing where they run around in a circle, all sniffing each other's butts at the same time, which is hilarious. But it's interesting watching it. I'm socializing him, so it's interesting watching this process of socialization where he tests other dogs' boundaries, they test his, and they figure out really quick what to do and what not to do, and that seems to be like very calming for them, like because now they know, like, they've ascertained all that stuff, and then now they can just kind of get on with it. Yeah, really interesting. So in that sense, probably. What?
You froze.
Oh no, okay, I'm back. So I would guess that play is like just totally necessary for people, probably.
I cannot go without. I feel like for me, playing feels more real than not playing. I feel like the fake version of me is the one
that's when you're the most serious. When you're playing.
Yeah, exactly.
So you play for keeps.
Yeah.
You play for keeps.
You play to win. Yeah.
I don't know.
This is very poker face. So, well, okay. I definitely plan to at least play Dead by Daylight with you. I just have to get the dongle.
Yeah, let's murder each other.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. I totally stop. I really love video games. Like, I really do. I feel that they're such an advanced art form, and I get a sense of release from them that I don't with other art forms, because I'm engaged with it, maybe because I'm just kind of naturally fidgety, so I have something to fidget with, the controller. But video games are such kind of like they can be such a lonely experience. So even if you're kind of playing multiplayer online, and Twitch seems to turn it into something totally different. Yeah.
And also I love video games as well, but for a lot of people it's a form of escapism. And it's just very convincing escapism. Like, the more beautiful the game is, the more you can kind of let yourself kind of slip away into this world. And it's happened for me in a few games. For example, like Skyrim, I really spent like 3 months straight playing Skyrim Elder Scrolls. And it still happens to me. I grew up playing video games, so I definitely can see the beauty of it, and also when you just actually should be doing other things. So it's really back and forth for me, because I admire the creative amalgamation of all these artists working together, and the storyboarding, and all of these things happening in the narrative, and the choices you can make in these video games. But on the other hand, Rose doesn't really like video games, because she is basically, I look at it as she's kind of the one that's responsible for doing the imagining, and I am much more willing to play inside someone else's imagination. And Rose likes to create that world.
I don't enjoy immersion.
Why not?
Because it takes away my criticism. And I feel like that's what I always play with. Like, if I'm not aware of the rules or the rules of the universe, then I cannot play in that universe or something. So immersion is boring for me, because then I just replaced this confusing world with another world that makes a little bit more sense. But then I don't trust that world anymore, because it gets real or interesting for me when it is confusing. I don't know if that makes sense, but this is also just as an artist, where I get my artistic drive from, or where my inspiration comes from. It comes from being confused. And if a world makes too much sense, then I'm bored, I think.
So you like rules, but you want there to not be rules.
I want to fight the rules.
Okay.
I want to doubt the rules. I want to look for the contradictions within the rules, or the spaces between them. Yeah. And this is also like talking about Artaud. Like, the more strict your rules are, the better you can rebel, or the better you can radicalize within it.
That's so interesting. Yeah, there's so much. There is a concept, and this reminds me of, there's something in kind of game theory, or theory about people playing games, not mathematical game theory, that relates to this. And I forget where it's from, and I can't remember who said it, but at one point I was reading, somebody was kind of theorizing about games, and I take like a lot from magic from games. I think it's you really can learn a lot. But or not learn a lot. They're just so analogous. But this person was saying that they were categorizing the different types of players of games, and there are players that basically see their opposition in the game. They're playing against the game pieces. Like if you're in a game that you're trying to do a single player and you're fighting the enemies coming at you, then there are players who play against each other, and they want to win against the other person that's playing it. And then there's players who play against the game itself. They want to break the rules of the game, and that's the most interesting.
Yeah.
Right, I think. Right.
That's like speed running also.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and for me, that obviously applies to life, and I've always lived life as I'm playing against the game itself, which is magic.
Yeah.
I also think most artists in general play that way. Yeah.
Interesting.
Definitely. Yeah, it's definitely a more artistic, or, I feel that people who would play a game that way would be artists or game designers in the making, because then that's a whole other level of play as you start creating your own games, or a computer programmer or something like that, somebody who wants to break the system. But this obviously applies to life as well. The other thing from game theory that has really been has just been a cornerstone of magical thinking since the 60s. Do you know James Carr's Finite and Infinite Games? Oh, super good. You should read it. It's a very short book, and it's just like one of the most useful things in life, to frameworks to think about. Or I could just basically, it's pretty simple. It's that there are two types of games. Finite games, which is games that have an ending. You play them to win, like Super Mario Brothers 3, for instance, or I'm showing my age here, but that, like, you're playing, or any single player campaign game, you're playing to win the game, and there's a specific win condition. That's a finite game, and there's lots of things in life like that too. Then there are infinite games, which are games that you play because you enjoy them and you want to play them forever. Like you're playing just...
Is that like No Man's Sky or something like that? Or like these epic algorithmic games that never end?
Yeah, I guess. Or like open world, like sandbox games maybe. Yeah. And so that is also super interesting in life as well. Like identifying things that you do within your own life. Because my view is just everything, like literally everything is a game. Social interaction is a game, obviously. Jobs are a game. Relationships are a game. Everything's a game. And that's not a bad thing. It's like, are you playing games with me? No, it's like, that's not a bad thing. It's just like a much more, I think, empowering framework to look at life. And it's also just true that, and this was big in the 70s, of transactional analysis. It was a big psychotherapeutic concept of observing people's behaviors, not from the perspective that, they're enacting childhood trauma or whatever, or unconscious, Freudian type stuff, but basically just observing the things that people do as games. They're playing a game. Everything that people do makes sense as a move within a game that they may be playing with or without other people. And I think that's really useful framework to look at things.
Sorry.
Doggo.
The dog was just chewing in the microphone.
Yeah, I
you heard it.
I have that. I did not. I have that exact same issue.
Yeah. I don't know.
I couldn't hear it.
So, my dog is starting to go into wacky mode.
Yeah, it's distracting because it's cute.
It happened at the same time. Both of our dogs were like, "Hello, I would like attention."
Yes. Well, maybe that's a sign. Maybe we should wrap it up for now. Although I would love to have you back on the podcast in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
Where can people find your stream or anything else they should find?
It's twitch.tv/the Ghost Maidens. And if you just type in the Ghost Maidens, you'll find us on Instagram. We're on YouTube. It's just the Ghost Maidens. It's 3 words.
And don't forget it's very important.
The Ghost Maidens.
The Ghost Maidens.
The Ghost Maidens. All right.
And we stream like 3 times a week at the moment. And
is that how did you get to? Because I'm trying to kind of get to that with content. What was the most helpful thing in doing that?
Like getting to 3 times a week.
Yeah, and is that exhausting for you?
Well, it's just like setting a schedule, and then you just try as hard as you can to stick to that. And
they're not all as prepared and much thought through
Yeah, because we also let that be a bit loose. Like we have goals for costumes, and whenever we reach that goal, then we plan it.
Yeah.
Or order the costumes or whatever. And sometimes we just do just chatting with chat without really like a strong, huge concept, which is enough. All sorts of things get made out of even these streams where we don't really necessarily have a plan. And then we do theme streams, or sometimes the costume just makes the entire event. We still leave a lot up to chance, but it's also good when there's like a bit of a loose narrative to happen. And usually we do that with sub goals. And a sub goal is basically when you say like, if we get this many subscriptions to our channel, then this will happen. And then you can kind of push a narrative in a certain kind of way like that. But Rose is really good at doing the narrative part of
the narrative girl.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, sounds good. We will definitely have to play Dead by Daylight as soon as I get my act together.
Yeah, we're gonna put each other on hooks.
Just get that dongle.
Gotta get the dongle.
Just get that dongle, Jason.
That's the moral of the story.
Jesus Christ.
All right. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, thank you very much. Maybe I'll see you in Vegas. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, why not come and let's talk about how weird shit is in meta levels? Why not?
Yeah, well, there's the why not is because there's a business to run here, but we will be finished with the course by then.
We also have
bring your computer.
We'll see.
What's the point in being a virtual wizard if you cannot work remotely?
Wizard in Las Vegas.
Well, there's also
we also are virtual.
There's
people.
also COVID. I mean, it's like I got to get on a plane and then be in Vegas.
Yeah, but come on.
We're not gonna go to a club and spit in each other's mouths.
Well,
okay?
I'm definitely not coming then because that's what I was hoping for.
You want to?
All right.
I won't be. I'm antisocial. I won't be doing that.
Okay.
Maybe Rose will.
Well, anything's possible. We'll see. All right.
All right.
Fun.
Goodbye for now. Charlie says goodbye.
Bye, Charlie.
Goodbye, Charlie.
Bruce is in my lap. Bruce also says
All right.
bye.
See you later. Thank you again. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Hope you really, really enjoyed that. I definitely had a lot of fun in that conversation. Meet us at magic.me, magick.me, my school for magic, meditation, and mysticism, where you can learn all the skills you need to unleash your true self. I will see you in class, and until next time, hang in there.